This is the first thing you should watch before you play ranked in Pokemon Pocket TCG. Let's get into it. So why am I making this video? Well, I'm making this video because I recognize while streaming that a lot of the community is brand new. This may be A4 season or season 4, but many players, this is their first season. So I'm going to jump into some decks that you can use to get all the way from beginner all the way to master in this A4 season. Alright, now some of you may know some of these decks because they are still relevant from the A3 season, which was the last season that just ended. However, with the new set of Wisdom of Sea and Sky, there are some additions that have been made to most of these decks and relevant in the meta still. Alright, so before we get into some of those decks, however, I want to go into very briefly what ranked is about and how it works for those beginner players, and hopefully this helps you understand how ranked works, and hopefully the decks you're able to build them. I'm also going to include some decks where you don't need some of the very top meta cards to build. It's very simple, very easy edits to make from last season's decks as well. So let's get straight into it. Alright, so right now I'm actually using the website Pocket TCG or PTCG Pocket.gg. Alright, and this is how rank works very quickly. Players go up in rank based on your points, obviously. Every battle that you win, you get more points. The ranks go from beginner rank 1 to 4, and it is important to note that this is very different from how rank works in other games where it goes from 4 to 1 and then you go up to the next rank. This one actually goes from 1 to 4 and then you go up to the next rank. So you have to go beginner 1 and play all the games to get to beginner 2, then beginner 3, then beginner 4, and then it goes switching over to Pokeball 1 and so forth until you get to Masters. The tiers are beginner rank, Pokeball rank, Great Ball rank, Ultra Ball rank, and Master Ball rank. In Master Ball rank, however, players in the top 10,000 by rank points will have their ranking displayed. Alright, you can get additional rank points by winning consecutive battles in ranks up to Great Ball 4. So yes, up to Great Ball 4, if you have consecutive wins, you actually speed your way up to Ultra very quickly by getting accumulated points because of your win streak. Important to note, in beginner rank 4 or 1 to 4, alright, you will not lose rank points when defeated in battle, so you're almost gonna instantly or automatically get yourself into Pokeball very quickly in the first time you're picking up the game if you're a beginner. Alright, in ranks up to Great Ball rank 1, you will not drop down in rank as a result of being defeated in battles either. However, if you are in Ultra and you are defeated in Ultra 1 and you have not enough points to stay in Ultra 1, you can drop back down into Great Ball. Alright, that's how it works. In Master rank, players in the top 10,000 by rank points will have their ranking being displayed. Alright, so this is how the rank points work. You get 10 for a win, 0 for a loss in beginner. Alright, 2 wins, you get 3 points. 3 wins, you get 6 more points. 4 wins, you get 9 more points. And 5 wins, you get 12 more points. Alright, and these are points added on to the 10 points that you're already going to gain. In Pokeball tier, it's the same 10 points, but you now are able to lose points when you lose a game, and it's 5 points. And the bonus win streak remains the same. Great Ball, you get 10 points for a win, 5 points for a loss, and the bonus points remain the same. In Ultra Ball, you get 10 points for a win, 5 minus points for a loss, no bonus points. In Master Ball, you get 10 points for a win, minus 10 points, so that same 10 points, you lose it if you lose a game, and there are no bonus points. Alright, so at the end of the A4 season, depending on which rank you end off at, the next season or the next season within A4, your rank can and will change based on what rank you were in. Okay, so if you are going to end off A4 season in a beginner rank, there's no change up to Great Ball rank when the season completes. However, if you end in Great Ball rank 2, you'll go back to 1. If you end in 3, you'll go back to 2. If you end in 4, you'll go back to 2 as well. If you end in Ultra Ball 1, you go back to Great Ball 3. Ultra Ball rank 2, you go back to Great Ball rank 4, and if you end in Ultra Ball rank 3, you go back to Ultra Ball rank 1. If you end in Ultra Ball rank 4, you go back to Ultra Ball rank 2. Master Ball, you go back to Ultra Ball rank 3, and top Master Ball, you go back to Ultra Ball rank 4, which is kind of a easy way to get back into Master every time if you can top the Master 10,000 chats. Alright, here are some of the rewards that you get in the game. You can actually check this out in your game if you're a beginner. However, you're already here, so I'm just going to show you very quickly. You get one of these emblems depending on which rank you end off the season in. Also, based on the amount of points you end off certain ranks in, you're going to get a corresponding amount of pack hourglasses, and these are used to open packs. Obviously, I'm just going to go through them very quickly. I'm not going to read them out, so that you can kind of screenshot the screen if you like to see where you would fall and how much points you would gain based on where you end off the season this season. Okay, so I'm just going to scroll through it very quickly, take a screenshot. I'm going to scroll a bit, take a screenshot. All right, now quickly before we go into our top decks that you can play, I will go through about 10 decks. All right, matchmaking players will be matched with opponents based on their rank. So if you're in Great Ball, you'll get ranked with Great Ball people. Ultra Ball, same thing, etc. Right? Note, at certain ranks, players will sometimes be matched with AI opponents, also known as bots. Okay, in some ranks you will be ranked up with bots based on the availability of players. And please know that all these things can change at any point in time, because we don't control the Pokemon company, they control themselves. So let's get into some of the decks that you can use as a beginner or even as a seasoned player to get to Masters in A4 season. So I'm going to go through these kind of quickly, and you could also check the timestamps below. I'm going to tag the names of each deck as best as possible so that you can kind of skip through and just copy and paste these decks into your game. I'm going to give a very quick rundown as to why you may want to play each of these decks, so it's not going to take very long. Alright, so the cards we have for the first deck are the Crobat, Sylveon EX, Umbreon EX, and Darkrai EX deck. Now this deck does include the Crobat that has been just released in the Wisdom of Sea and Sky, or Sky and Sea. You're playing one Sabrina, one Silver, two Professors, one Darkrai for that tap damage, Zubat obviously, first evolution to Crobat. You have Sylveon EX for your drawing, Zubat again, the poison one this time. I think you can run two of the poison ones. I just think that this person would have run one of the regular ones for the 20 damage, or because they didn't have one of the other poison ones, you have two Crobats, one Umbreon for that extra free Cyrus whenever you need to KO or clutch a win. You have two EVs, the one that draws a Pokemon, a random Pokemon from your deck to your hand, so that you always have Pokemon in your hand to use and see the cards that you need obviously to win the game. You have one Cape, you have two rare candies to evolve, two Pokeballs, and one red card. Alright, so Crobat EX is easily one of the top 3 strongest cards from the new expansion, and early tournament results back it up. The most successful lists so far are running a 2-2 Crobat EX line, alright, and a 2-2 Sylveon line with one Umbreon and one Darkrai to round off the board. Alright, now if you don't know what Crobat does, he does 70 damage and also leaves poison on you. This deck does not run the Nihilego that gives you that extra poison, so you're just going to be doing that 70 and then 1 tick damage with the poison. However, Crobat only needs 1 energy to attack, so your remaining energies go on Darkrai to give you an extra 20 tick damage. And when you're ready to finish off the game, you can kind of use Umbreon to kind of Cyrus something in for free into the active to kind of KO it. So that's deck number 1. Deck number 2, we'll probably just do the top 5. Deck number 2 is Donphan Rampardos. Alright, now this deck may be changing very soon with some new edits that we've seen. However, it runs the Cranidos, one of it, as the middle evolution, so that you can kind of hard evolve if you don't find your rare candies. We have two Rampardos that do 130 damage, which kind of KOs or puts anything into a range of death very quickly, and it's a 1 prizer, so you have that trade-off of losing 1 prize to possibly taking a 2 prize on the enemy side. You have Fanfi, which is not really a new card to us, but we have 2 of it because it's a pre-evolution to one of the stronger, or even dare I say one of the strongest EXs that were released, if you really think about it. We have the Donphan EX. Alright, so we have Fanfi, sorry, is the pre-evolution. Then we have Donphan EX, which has 160 HP, guys. 160 HP. Our deck doesn't run any capes or anything like that to increase that. However, it does survive a hit from one of the strongest attackers in the game, Charizard, which hits for that 150 at a very quick pace. The other Charizard that hits for 200, nobody's going to play it. Trust me, nobody's going to play it. Alright, but Donphan, what Donphan does is with 1 energy, again, he hits for 50. And if he has 2 extra energies on him, he hits for 110. Alright, and that's where his damage comes in. It's kind of similar to the Silvally line, alright, but I don't know, it's just a little more reliant because the HP is a little higher. And I've seen some persons run this deck with some Lucarios in it, so that 110 HP, that 110 damage could actually be something like 130 or even 140, alright, KOing most things in the game. We have the Skull Fossil for the Rampardos evolution. We have Pokemon Communication to make sure you find the correct Pokemon that you want to be playing. 2 rare candies, a Pokeball, a red card, Cyrus, a Guzma, because this new meta is probably going to have some of the most tool cards being played. We have Lyra for that free grab off the field. If you don't know what Lyra does, she's also a new card. When your opponent or when your Pokemon has damage on it, it's a free switch, not a free retreat, because you can still use retreat after using Lyra. It's a free switch to kind of secure yourself from giving away a 2-prizer if it's about to die. We have Silver, which is probably one of the best cards that were released in terms of supporters, in terms of all-round supporters that don't specifically support any one deck but supports all decks possibly, because it allows you to see your opponent's hand as well as get rid of one of your opponent's supporter cards that could kind of throw them off their game. And obviously we are running some professors researches to kind of draw into more cards. All right, and I'm going to be streaming later on today testing out some of these decks a little further. So if you want to see some of these decks in action, you can watch our live stream that's happening later on today. I stream almost every single day in the week. Let's move on to the next deck. Deck number 3, Espeon EX and Sylveon EX. We've had a deck similar to this already. However, this deck is kind of relying now on the baby Sylveon as well as the Espeon EX. Alright, the Sylveon EX, yes, we do attack with it for 70 damage now and then. However, we are relying a little more on the 80 attack damage 140 Espeon EX, as well as this baby Sylveon, which is to just take out any of those Oricorios, because some persons are still playing Oricorios in their deck. The deck is basically very plain. Alright, it has 2 silvers, which is a new addition. Sabrina's for a little rotation or for a little gusting, I would say. We have Professor's Research for search. We have Sylveon EX for search. We have Sylveon, baby Sylveon, which does damage that can KO any Oricorio or basic small Pokemon very quickly. We have the EX EV times 2, so that we can evolve into any of these Sylveons or evolutions of Eevee. Alright, we also have a baby Eevee by 2 to kind of the one that grabs a Pokemon from your deck. We have the Eevee bag, which can work in twofold. It can either heal your Pokemon, all of them, or it can give them more damage. So you can essentially do up to like 100 damage or a little more with some of the other Pokemon. It's worth it to note that Espeon EX also heals itself, so that's, I mean, a very cool, neat trick that you can do as well with Espeon. Alright, Espeon EX is quietly becoming one of the early standouts this expansion, besides Umbreon, and this is most successful version so far. While it's still unclear how impactful it is with its healing, its 2 energy for 80 damage is solid, especially when backed by Sylveon and the new Eevee that helps you grab that Pokemon. Alright, those Pokemon that you need. Next, we're going into one of probably the strongest decks to be played or to be recreated for this new season, and this is deck number 4. Alright, and stick around because the last deck is actually going to be one of the easiest decks to build, and it's also going to be one of the probably fastest decks to play. Alright, but let's look at Dragonite EX, which includes a Zeraora for some of that energy charge. We have Dragonair times 1, which is the middle evolution. We have Dratini times 2, which is the baby evolution, or like the first evolution, and then you have Dragonite EX. What Dragonite EX does is basically 180 damage. Yes, 180 damage is probably one of the strongest attacks in the game, apart from the 200 damage that the Charizard does. However, when you attack, you are not able to attack in the following turn. Now, this is easily solved by running Lyra, and we are running 2 Lyras so that we can remove up to 2 Dragonite EXs. Alright, and what happens is that you can retreat Dragonite EX with Lyra, and then you can place it back on your bench by retreating into it. If we read Lyra carefully, it says that you switch your active Pokemon that has damage on it to your benched Pokemon, and this kind of works better than putting it back in your hand in this instance, because if you switch it onto the bench, it remains with the energy on it. Alright, and having the energy remain on it is what is important, because it does need a water, electric, and colorless energy to do its 180 damage. So you're playing Pichu as well, which synergizes well with this deck, not just to charge, you're playing Cleffa as well, not just to find a Pokemon, but to have that free retreat. Alright, so if you start off with Pichu, you can kind of get that free energy on your first turn onto your Dragonite. You're not going to be playing any electric energy, which is kind of risky, because if you don't find Pichu, your strategy kind of falls through. I mean, if your Zeraora is also there to give you that energy, that electric energy. You're running water energy only for the consistency, right? And your Pichu is what's going to give you that electric energy, or your Zeraora along with elemental switch is what is going to give you that energy. Okay, so the Pichu is there to charge. You're going to attack with your Dragonite, then you're going to retreat it, or not retreat it, you're going to switch it with your Lyra once it gets attacked, and not much things are going to kill your Dragonite EX with 180 HP, so it's probably just going to lose some HP, so it's going to be activating Lyra very often. You switch it to your bench into something like Pichu, or maybe something like Old Amber, which we are running in this deck as well, because Old Amber, you can kind of just get rid of it by just clicking get rid of it, discard, and then you can bring back up the Dragonite EX, and he can attack any turn that he was supposedly not to attack in. It's a very straightforward deck. It kind of does take a bit to get online if you don't find those rare candies, because there's only one set of search tool in this deck, which is the Professor's Research. I mean, there is some Pokeball, but it doesn't get you Dragonite. However, that Cleffa is hopefully there to get you that Dragonite when possible. Alright, so try this one, guys. This one is probably one of the strongest decks in the new meta. But let's move on to the last deck, which is my favorite, the one that I use currently with a few adaptations that I'll kind of give you my adaptations as well. And I think I will leave it in the cards because I did do a separate video on my adaptation. It is Silvally Oricorio. Now, the Silvally Oricorio deck is one of the easier decks to get because it runs no EX Pokemon. And why is this important? Well, this is important because you can use pack points to claim Silvally or Type Null for very cheap. You can also do that for Oricorio as well. I think it's like 70 or even 150 for the stage 1 of Silvally. Pichu is also very cheap, and you probably did pull a Pichu already. Alright, if you didn't, however, it's on the Lugia side. So if you're pulling on the Ho-Oh side and you recognize you haven't pulled any Pichus yet, it's because you're pulling on the wrong pack, sorry. So go to the Lugia side and you'll be able to get that Pichu. Alright, so the deck very quickly is 1 Giovanni, 1 Sabrina, 1 Cyrus. All these cards are very useful. 1 Maz, which you can trade out for a red card. Check my video, you'll see what my build adaptation is. 1 Guzma, as I said, because there's a lot of tool cards being played. 2 Gladion, because you're running Silvally, obviously. 1 Silver. 2 Professor's Research. We have Oricorio, which not a lot of decks can answer to in the current meta or the upcoming meta, because none of them can attack it because it's EX Pokemon, with the exception of Crobat that still poisons Oricorio. But you can check out my video on how to play this deck and you'll see how to counter those counters for Oricorio very easily. We have 2 Type Null, 2 Silvally, obviously. Then we have Pichu, which is supposed to be a faster energizer than Zeraora, but I prefer Zeraora, and you can check out my video, as I mentioned before, on how I have made the adaptations to make the deck a little better with the Zeraora over the Pichu. I think Pichu is just too much of a liability because a lot of things can kill it at 30 HP. But let me know your thoughts down below on what you think about the baby Pokemon. I read all the comments, so I'm gonna answer each one. What do you think, or who do you think is the best baby Pokemon? Alright, is it Pichu? Is it Cleffa? Is it Magby? Let me know in the comments down below. We're also running 2 Pokeballs. Alright, this is the deck. It's one of the cheapest decks that you can build. You might think it may not be very powerful in the meta, but I did get to top 2. Yes, I did lose eventually, but I did get to top 2 in a tournament with this deck, so be sure to check it out. It's one of the easiest decks to play. It's one of the easiest decks to build, and it's very fast paced. If you like playing quickly and like getting into your hands, like getting into your KOs very quickly, this is the deck for you. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Let me know if you've built any other like series decks. I would like to test it. Any good deck or any deck that I see you post in the comment down below, you can build your deck on Limitless TCG, or you can just type out the cards for me in the comments down below. I'm gonna test them out on a live stream. So let me know your best deck down below that you want me to build. It's your boy Firefox. I hope this video helped you. If you're a beginner, you're definitely going to get to masters with some of these decks and by knowing some of this information. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Until next time, peace out.